This is George Dionne of the Rock is George podcast, and this is a KNAC.com exclusive interview with guitarist and solo artist Michael Thomas. If I knew absolutely nothing about Michael Thomas, how would you describe your music to me?
How would I describe my music? Well, I would say personally, my style is a mixture of all my influences that I grew up listening to, which is pretty eclectic, right? So the basis of it is rock, but I like to throw in, different flair from just like, a whole pot full of different artists. So at times there's going to be something a little more modern, maybe some electronic flair to some songs. There's going to be some pop elements. There's going to be just some heavy down-tuned riffs, so it's a nice mixture. I want to say that like it doesn't all sound the same, but it all falls under the Michael Thomas umbrella.
Absolutely. And you recently released a single on October 28th called Take Me. So if you want to talk a little bit about what the song's about.
Yeah, so the song it's a great example of what we were just talking about, right? So it's got a mixture of rock, it's got a pop flair to it. I've always felt that song has this really big, catchy chorus. It just kind of sticks in your ear and it stays there. So, I wrote that song. I kind of finished it up over the course of like the lockdown time, and really had a great opportunity to go in the studio and just kind of sink in to recording that and kind of experimenting with some different kind of feels and styles that I hadn't done in the past. So I want to say it's definitely like probably the most modern sounding song that I've done. And because I work with so many different artists and the majority of them are from that kind of classic rock era, I feel like there's a little bit of flair of that, but still kind of a new twist to it. So, it's incorporating the old with the new and just making it my own style.
And you have what looks to be a decent sized budget video on YouTube for it, with it's sort of a crime caper mixed with some supernatural stuff. If you want to talk a little bit about putting that video together.
Yeah. So, when I wrote the song, it's always different being in the studio and kind of like listening back to the mix and, incorporating all the different textures of tone with the lyrics. And sometimes I have this habit of almost kind of writing backwards. I will be working on pieces of a song and it won't be in a logical ABCD kind of order. I may have the chorus before I have the verse, or I may have the verse before I have the chorus. And it's not until you sit back at the completion of recording it that you go, oh, okay, I get the story. It makes sense. So that was kind of the deal with the song. And when I had finished the song, I kind of sat back and listened to it. And I came up with this story in my head, and I had this visual of this kind of Bonnie and Clyde, more modern telling with a dark twist. And so when we set out to actually film the video, I put together the treatment and laid everything out as far as the story from start to finish. And I knew it was like a lot to tell in just like 3 minutes and 49 seconds. So what's really cool about this video, as opposed to all the other ones I've done in the past, is a lot of videos, obviously there's performance pieces. And what I didn't want to do with this first song was put the band in front of a camera and cut from a little bit of story to a little bit of performance. I really wanted to tell a full story from start to finish. So it was amazing, dude. I got to say, it was one of the most enjoyable videos I've done. And I've had the good fortune to do quite a few. And from a creative standpoint, from a filming standpoint, editing, color grading, the effects, that was all done by me and my partner in crime, my girlfriend, Emma J., who is a very talented photographer and journalist in her own right. So yeah, it was really cool to take the creative reins and be able to bring that vision forward to match what I had in my head for the music.
Are you going to continue to cut singles, or are you eventually going to put a studio album together?
So at this point, I'm cutting a lot of singles, and I'm going to be releasing another single with a lyric video at the end of December. Actually, the release date is December 19th. And from there, I have another single queued up for the first quarter of 2023. That's going to be another full-scale video. And this one's going to have story and a performance piece to it. So I've got a lot of stuff queued up for end of 2022 and moving into 2023.
And you're signed to Golden Robot Records, which is sort of the single friendly label. They like their artists to kind of focus on singles, not so much albums, although they've done a few. So how did you first hook up with Golden Robot?
Yeah, so the Golden Robot guys approached me after I put out this single that was a cover for What's on Your Mind by Information Society, which I've always loved that song. And I always knew that one day I wanted to redo that song, but give it like a heavier guitar twist. So at the start of the year, I actually released that single and a lyric video to go with it. So after that was out, the folks at Golden Robot contacted me, and we discussed the idea of putting some singles out through their label. So far, I've been putting out stuff on my own. So we'll see about moving forward with more Golden Robot work in the future. They're a great company, and they've got a lot of really great artists that they're bringing aboard their roster. So far, right now, I've been kind of taking things on myself, which I'm kind of jack of all trades, and I like to have my fingers in everything. So it's been really good in that aspect. But I'm really excited to see what Golden Robot puts out. I know they just released something with Filter recently, and then also they've been doing work with one of my old bands, Faster Pussycat, and just released a single I think 2 or 3 weeks ago. So I'm really excited for them and all the artists that they're gathering up.
So speaking of being hands-on and kind of running your own show, do you have a backing band on the Take Me single or for the other singles that you put out, or do you pretty much do everything?
I pretty much do everything. So that's also pretty amazing that I have the freedom to do that. So I write, I play everything. And a lot of times I'm involved in the mixing of the song as well. So there were albums that I pretty much did everything from start to finish. Right now, at this current moment, I have a studio here in Dallas that I work out of, and my engineer slash associate producer, incredible guy, Matt Aslan from Aslan Audio, and we've just been doing some great work together over the past 10 years, I want to say, because I've done projects in his studio from my own personal music to some previous bands, Brand New Machine, that had our album out on Apocalypse Artist Records. Also working with some folks from The Voice in Europe, doing some singles out of his studio. I've had like a ton of different projects I brought through there. So it's kind of my go-to here in Dallas.
I watched your video for the Information Society song, What's on Your Mind. Had you gotten any feedback from them at all?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, when we put out that video, like the very next day, they shared it on all their social media, which I thought was such a huge compliment, man, because I've done covers in the past, with different bands or artists. But to, do that, and that was my creative twist to their amazing original classic song. And so to get that recognition and to have them share it on their social media, and they told their followers, hey, go check out this cover of the tune. Man, that was so flattering. I thought that was just the coolest thing in the world.
Are you still working with Steve Adler?
I am. As a matter of fact, I talked to him this afternoon.
Are you guys touring? You making music? What are you doing?
Well, we're doing a number of things. So in between all my solo stuff, I'm still touring with Steven, and we're still kicking around some original songs that we're in the studio recording as well. So our first show for 2023 is January 24th in Key West. So that would be amazing. Looking forward to getting back out on the road and getting back to the stage.
Do you play just Guns N' Roses stuff, or is there some of Steven's solo material and maybe sneak in a couple of your songs?
Yeah, it's kind of a mix. So I want to say the majority of it is the GNR catalog, and then mixed in are a few tracks from his solo record, a track or two from the stuff that we've done in the past as well. So I think moving forward, we'll try to mix in a couple more originals and keep pumping out, some new music for everyone. But yeah, it's awesome. I mean, he and I have been working together now for 18, 20 years, something like that. It's been a long time. So to be able to play those songs and still go out and see, like, all the enthusiasm and the energy and just how people just love those songs, it's the most amazing thing to be a part of.
Do you ever go out and play as your own solo band, Michael Thomas, do some local stuff, maybe little mini tours?
I would love to do that, and that's actually, on the plate for 2023. It's just been so busy, especially 2022 with all the shows with Steven and then being in the studio and releasing this new music. It's been a whirlwind, man. So there's only so many hours in the day trying to make time for everything. But no, I'm really looking forward to that because it's been a long time coming, and it's been a while since I've had the opportunity to do that. So a number of years back, I put out a record under the band name Fastback, and that was really kind of like a solo record. And man, people just loved that record and they gravitated towards it. And put that out on my own with my buddy Brian Saunders, who played bass with me in a number of touring bands. We toured all over the world together. Bang Tango and another rock act from the 80s, Tough, and just a number of different artists. So when he and I put that record out, literally we were offered a tour 3.5 weeks later, and we didn't have a band. It was just him and I who did the entire record. So we had to scramble, and we reached out to a guy named Barry Squire, who's very well known in the LA circuit for putting together cattle calls of musicians for different artists who need, touring musicians. So we frantically put the cattle call together, and we kind of found our guys through word of mouth and pulled some friends in. And I think 2 weeks later, we were on a plane to the Midwest to start the tour. So I miss that. I miss being up front, fronting the band, and doing that kind of thing. Because a lot of times for the live shows, I'm usually like the lead guitar player. And I sing background stuff, but not dead center fronting the band and doing that kind of thing. So I'm definitely looking forward to doing that in 2023.
For the most part, you're a rock and roll guy. You've worked with Beautiful Creatures, and you've worked with Steve Adler and Faster Pussycat, and you mentioned Tough. But I also saw that you did a collaboration with Snoop Dogg. What exactly was that, and how did that come about?
So that was just a ton of fun, and it kind of like hit me out of left field. So I was working with a band that was based in Dallas, Texas, and that band was called Anchored. They were our opening act with Steven Adler for one of our summer tours. So we were out with those guys for like, I don't know, 8-9 weeks. It was a long run. We became good friends, and they were out supporting their first record. After that tour ended, they ended up going out with Black Label Society, and then they were out with Volbeat for a long time. Fast forward, I don't know, 7-8 months, and we fly into Vancouver to do a show. And after sound check, I saw these posters that said Volbeat and Anchored. And I went, Anchored? I know that name. Why does that sound so familiar? And then it dawned on me. So I flipped through my phone, I called the guys, and I said, hey, are you guys playing Vancouver tonight? And they said, yeah. And they ended up playing down the street from us, which was just the craziest coincidence, right? So we didn't go on until pretty late. So after they finished their set, they came down, we hung out, and we just started talking and kind of, catching up. Next thing I know, I got a call, and they said, hey, man, we're getting ready to write our second record. Would you fly out to Dallas and help us write it? Because they had heard my songwriting before and the different stuff that I put out. So it just happened to fit with my schedule. I get out to Dallas, and we go into the studio, and they sit me down. They say, okay, first thing we have to do, first priority. We had like 10 days that we had scheduled for writing. They say, we're going to do a collaboration with another artist, so we have to work on that song first. And I said, okay, cool. I said, who's the artist? And they said, Snoop Dogg. And I'm like, what? And they said, yeah, I guess they had the same video director, and management thought this would be a great crossover. We're going to get these guys together and, see what happens. So I immediately went to writing, and I came up with the music and recorded it that afternoon. The next day, the singer came up with the lyrics, and within like 2 days, we shipped all the tracks back to LA to Snoop. And before I left that writing session, he finished all of his tracks and sent us back his finished version with all of his vocals. And dude, it was amazing, super amazing. I mean, talk about like knocking it out of the park. When we got that back, it was just like, wow, this really cool summertime like party anthem, right? So we end up flying back to LA a couple months later, and I end up recording the record with these guys. And we did it at NRG Studios, which, you know, is home to Jay Baumgartner, one of the most awesome producers that, you know, I've wanted to work with for years. So we were at NRG for 3 months doing that record. And Jay had done like Linkin Park, Papa Roach, No Doubt, Bush, I mean, Orgy, like all these incredible bands. So there was such an awesome experience. We finished the record and we get ready to shoot the video, and Snoop loved the song so much he decided to do the video with us. So the next thing you know, we're on set and he pops in, and dude, he is like the dude that you see, his persona that you see is actually like him in real life. He was so cool, so down to earth. And it was just a total pleasure. So yeah, I've had like a lot of really cool, bizarre experiences. I've been very lucky to work with a bunch of really super cool people.
That's great. Did you ever, I mean, you've been around for a while and you've been a part of several projects. Did you ever get a call from, like, we'll call them a major headliner that wanted you to audition for their band?
You know, as far as major headliner, there hasn't been that opportunity like when I think of like the elites of, you know, the music industry, which fingers crossed, there's always time. But I've just kept myself busy working with so many of the guys that I grew up listening to that it's been an incredible ride, you know? Like when I think about okay, point in case, I see that album cover on your back wall, Skid Row. So we did a show with those guys, Steve Adler and I. I think it was last March. We did a couple shows together, and I've known a couple of the guys in his band for quite some time. Brett Woods, who's playing guitar for him, has been for quite a while. And dude, like all those guys are like super nice. But the coolest thing was we were leaving to go home after a couple day run, like weekend run shows, and we're sitting at the airport, and in walks Sebastian, and he looks over and he sees me and my girlfriend, you know, sitting waiting for our flight. And so he comes over, and we ended up just, you know, kicking back and just shooting the shit for like, you know, an hour and a half while we're waiting for our flight. And everybody was so cool and so down to earth. And I'm thinking, man, I was like a 13, 14-year-old kid when that record came out. You know, these are the guys that inspired me to play music. You know, the fact that I get the chance to hang out and, you know, be on that level with those guys, I just think is super cool. Or like we got to do the Kiss Cruise a couple years ago. And for me, that was amazing, you know? And we headlined the very first night of the Kiss Cruise. And like a song into it, I turn around and there's Paul Stanley leaning on my amplifier, watching the show. And I'm like, holy shit. And I'm pointing to Steve and I'm like, dude. And he sat there the entire show, never moved. And afterwards came in the dressing room and had nothing but like awesome things to say. You know, that like, those are all the reasons, you know, getting into rock and roll, it just like validates everything to you. You know, you see these childhood heroes and then you get to share the stage or share a boat with them for a week. I mean, it's amazing. So to circle back to your question, there's always time for the majors, but I feel like I've been able to touch some pretty cool things along this journey so far.
Kind of a tough question. Not a lot of people would be willing to answer this next one, but did any of your rock heroes let you down when you met them?
Did any of them let me down? I don't think any of them let me down. You know, I think that in the music industry and with artists in general, you know, the creative types, there's always going to be maybe one or two things that throw you for a loop, like that you don't expect. But you know, dude, I gotta say, the majority, and when I say the majority, I'm talking like 98% of the people that I've worked with have been absolutely fabulous. I've been super lucky in that respect. I can't think of like an artist where I met them and I was like, oh, geez, that's a disappointment, I feel like everybody's been like very welcoming and engaging. And what's really cool is, especially like with my time with some of the bands that I was with for a number of years, like say Faster Pussycat, um, Steven, even, if we go as far back as say like Bang Tango or Beautiful Creatures, like I feel like I was able to contribute to those bands and help, I guess, keep that moniker moving forward. I did a live record with Faster Pussycat in Australia, and it's funny because I haven't heard it in a long time, but I'll listen back to some of those tracks, and I was like, that was really cool. Like I forgot about that. So it's like little moments like that I go, yeah, okay. Not only did they invite me, because it's somebody else's house, right? You're just renting a room there. Like I wasn't a part of these albums when they came out, so I respect what they built. And it's somebody else's house, and they were always very gracious and welcoming.
Okay. Are you still the owner of Johnny Ringo Clothing?
Yes, sir. I
And what
am.
is that, like a rock and roll clothing line, or is it something different?
Yeah, no, it actually was very rock and roll. I did that for a number of years. I had to put that on hiatus for a bit, and I started now kind of coming back around to getting back into the clothing thing. It's funny. I did that for myself and for other companies for a number of years in between some of the touring. So if there was like a lull in between, and man, you got to realize there were some years where there were no lulls whatsoever. I was doing like 220 dates a year. I'd be out with Faster Pussycat, and then I would come home and I'd do the exact same circuit with STEVE Adler. And then I'd come home and then I'd go to Europe with Faster Pussycat, and then I would come home and turn around and go right back and do it with Steven. So there was a period of time where I had to kind of step away from it because it's very time consuming. Um, but yes, I did have that clothing line for a while. It's something that I want to revamp probably, in the future. But I have kind of circled back around with the Vampire Karate Club stuff. So you're going to be seeing more of that in 2023. That online store will be going up shortly. I've had a lot of inquiries about the VKC stuff. So besides the T-shirts and the guitar picks and everything else that I've done branding wise, now it's the words it started to circulate, and now I have to make good on putting up a store and making stuff available. So that's one of the 2023 resolutions. That's got to go up quick.
Your PR rep, Emma J, set up this interview today, and she's also your photographer, and she's your music video star, and by all appearances, she's your girlfriend as well. How did you two meet?
She's my creative muse. It's amazing. Sometimes you meet somebody and it just instantly clicks, and then you guys just kind of take off to the races. So I was playing a show in Denver, Colorado, and it was the weirdest thing, man. And I'll try to make the story somewhat brief. But I got to Denver, went out to dinner with a buddy of mine, and finished dinner, had to get back to the hotel to get ready for the show. We were in downtown Denver with all these crazy big, buildings and parking garages. We parked in one garage out of how many thousands in downtown Denver. We get to the door to go in the parking garage, and it's down this little business center breezeway, like completely undescript. It's just, just this tiny little walkway in the middle of nowhere. Trying to get the ticket to work, it's giving us a problem. And then finally, like 5-10 minutes later, we get it to work. We open the door. As I'm walking in the door, I hear my name being called from behind me. And I'm like, who's that? I turn around, and it was my buddy, Meigs, a guitar player from Cold Chamber and Gemini Syndrome. And we used to be neighbors in LA, and I hadn't seen him in a couple of years. So of all the people I run into in this tiny little business breezeway in downtown Denver, it's my good friend Meigs. And I'm like, what are you doing here? And he's like, oh, we're playing a show tomorrow. And I said, well, we're playing tonight. We fly out to Montana tomorrow for a festival. I said, why don't you come down to the show? So he decided to come. And anyways, playing the show, very first song, I go to the front of the stage, and I see Emma walking up from the crowd at the front of the stage. And I was like, wow, who's that? And I kind of lost my composure and I turned around for a second and I'm like, all right, cool. Get your shit together, play the show. Don't forget where you are in the song, right? So I went back out to the front of the stage. She was gone, nowhere to be found. And I was like, great, I blew that one. So anyways, after the show, my buddy Niece comes up and says, hey, let's hang out and catch up and have a drink. So I said, yeah, let me put my stuff down real quick and get my stuff sorted, put my guitar away. He goes, well, hold on, wait a minute. I want to introduce you to a friend of mine. And then up walks Emma. He had actually brought her to the show. She was out on tour with Gemini and a couple other bands as the tour photographer. So yeah, we started talking that night. And then when their tour wrapped, I played a show in Vegas that she came out to. And that was it. Ever since, we've been together.
Excellent.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those weird things, like, of all the odds of running into somebody randomly and then that person bringing this person, it was like the stars aligned.
That's right. So besides the single, the current single, Take Me, and the stuff you're doing with Steven, and what do you have else on your plate as far as music is concerned?
Ooh, what else? I mean, that's a lot between all my and the stuff with Steven. Yeah, honestly, coming up, it's releasing that new lyric video in December. And then we're going to go right into shooting the next video, as far as story and performance. And really, I want to just stay on the schedule of releasing a couple songs, a year at the very minimum, one a quarter. And with Steven, obviously, we have our first show coming up January 24th, and then we have shows all throughout the year. And once we get past like February into March and April, then we start picking up festivals. So it's going to be a real busy schedule. And it's weird. I get calls for stuff all the time as well, so I do a lot of studio work. So yeah, just a lot of stuff planned for 2023 musically. And then again, getting out the Vampire Karate Club new merchandise line. Getting that set up on the online store. Yeah, just full plate.
All right, man. Those are all the questions I have for you today. Your latest single is Take Me. It's out now, available on all streaming platforms and YouTube. And I want to thank you for taking the time to speak with KNAC.com tonight.
Thank you very much, man. It's good to be here.